Boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. Derek from Spreads and Props here. Wanted to get this video out before the games tip off tomorrow. Um, Josh and I did a breakdown of the entire first round a couple days ago, just with our initial looks at what we thought about some of these games, how they'd play out, and now I've had a couple days to digest all that information. And what I wanted to do is just kind of give out my pick for each game as far as betting picks go. Um, some of these I like better than others. We're still going to put out some picks on Twitter tomorrow. Those are going to be the official picks, the ones that I'm going to be backing with my own money. Josh is going to be backing those picks as well. But I wanted to touch on every game because some games I can't get to as far as I like a side, I don't love it, or I like a total, I don't love it. But I found some value in every single game that's being played tomorrow on Thursday, and I wanted to just go over that as quick as possible here. We made a 2 hour video the other day. I don't want to make a 2 hour video, but you get what I'm saying. I want to get something out quick to you guys. It's halftime of the Texas game right now with Xavier. I call it the Texas game because I didn't see that coming. This has been a pleasant little surprise this Tuesday, Wednesday of the tournament. These games have been – the Carolina game was obviously a drubbing, but that kind of validated their place in the tournament. That first game yesterday, Alabama State and St. Francis, was fantastic. Obviously, comes down to the end. And then the game with the two mid-majors earlier today, St. Mary's, Mount St. Mary's, who I thought was the worst team in this entire field, ends up coming out here and scoring 83 points. It's March. Anything can happen. I mean, this team was getting railroaded in their conference left and right, and all of a sudden found something here at the end of the year. Doesn't mean anything for the bracket, but I mean, tip your cap to those kids for getting it done and getting to really dance, live to fight one more day. So that's pretty cool. But as far as tomorrow goes, we're just going to knock these games out in order. So let's get started here first with this one. We are going to start in the Creighton and Louisville game, tipping off first thing 12:15. When I first initially looked at this game, it screams Louisville, and it's for the same reason that it screamed that in the bracket. This game is being played in Lexington. I think Louisville is favored and should be favored, but Creighton is fully capable of beating this team by 15 or 20 points too. So as you'll notice here on the screen, I'm gonna attach each pick that I make just so there's no confusion as to where we're at. But I love the Creighton pick because I think the only way Creighton stays in this game at all is to play their brand of basketball, which is going to be to speed up Louisville and try to get some points. Louisville will oblige to a degree. They're not just a defensive stalwart type of team. They can get out and run. They can score a little bit too. So even if Louisville was to win this game like 75-73, I wouldn't be surprised, something like that. I don't have the total in front of me now, but what I do have is just in my notes, I have Creighton being able to score, and I know that. And just this team total of 71.5 is just too low for me. I don't see Creighton being held under 72 points unless they're just absolutely ice cold from the field. And it could happen, but with Kolkbrenner and Ashworth, you have some guys who have a lot of tournament experience under their belt, and I don't think that they go out that way, not getting blown out and without putting up a fight. So this could be a backdoor cover, but I really like this one. So that's going to be our first pick. Second game we are going to go to is a very controversial game for a lot of people. A lot of brackets I've taken this team to win, High Point. Without knowing too much about High Point, if you haven't followed college basketball at all and you're here just watching a video to try to get some picks, they can score the ball. They play really well as a team together, and I think Purdue obviously has the better team on paper. If Purdue wins this game by 20, am I surprised? Maybe a little bit, but I don't expect it. I expect a tighter game. And what I've seen from Purdue in these bigger games over the last few years, outside of that run they had with Zach Edey, was just they're a very underwhelming tournament team, and I think they come out in this game with a lot of pressure on their shoulders. And I think High Point can just come out and play free. They're kind of playing with house money at this point. No one really expects anything from them. Um, I do. I think they can win this game easily. So if you're going to give me 4.5 points here in the first half, that's what I'm going to take here. So I think that's the play in this game. Short and sweet. High Point can play with Purdue, and that's just too many points to me in the first half of a Purdue team that, these teams don't know each other. This is an early game. They're trying to figure each other out. High Point's never been to the tournament before. Are they going to be excited? Yeah. Could they come out and be very nervous? Of course. But if they're able to get through that first 3 or 4 minutes and put a couple shots into the basket, like we saw Oakland do last year, for instance, they can just get rolling, and you might not even need these points. But we really like High Point on that one, or at least I do. I love that pick. All right, let's go to our third pick. This game, a lot of people are uninterested in this game, and I really did find some trouble finding some value in this game. Montana's a sneaky team, just sneaky team, plain and simple. Could Wisconsin absolutely blow their doors off? Yeah. Will they? Probably. I liken this more to a backdoor cover if I'm going to take something like this. 17-point game, 14 seed, traditionally 14 seed blowout. But over the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen these teams compete, not only compete and win. And Montana is a tournament team. They've been to quite a few tournaments. So this is not something new like High Point or UC San Diego, these schools that just don't have anything to lean on. Within the Montana program, there's a lot of experience having been in these big games, and they don't always win them, but I'm asking them to keep it, within a blowout. And I think Wisconsin could be in for a bit of a letdown coming off that Big Ten championship game. Do I think they advance? Absolutely. I like them to go deep into the tournament, but this game may be one of those where this Montana team gives them all that they can ask for. Where they never really can put them away completely. So I like Montana there. This next one, this game, Houston's the best team in the country, in my opinion. They play both ways. Can they score 85 points? Sure they can. Can they hold you to 50 points? Sure they can. And that's the scary thing with them and what you just don't know. And I think this spread with SIU Edwardsville is 28.5. And I don't know if Houston's interested in just coasting through this game because there's no style points in the tournament. You can win by 1 and you can win by 99 and nobody cares. It doesn't make a difference. It makes for a nice talking point for the next day or two. But sports betting wise, we're just looking at raw numbers. And I think that point margin is probably right. 28.5. Houston, I could easily see them winning this game like 82-50. So I like Houston to come out, assert dominance. I think I think Edwardsville comes along later in the game and gets a lot of garbage points in this game. And I'm gonna bank on that happening and take the total over. I've seen it at 126.5, but the worst I've seen it is at 127. So I want to keep it at 127 and just kind of say, hey, that's the number that I'm seeing now, and I'm comfortable them still going over that number with obviously Houston doing most of the heavy lifting in that game. So it's not my favorite pick, but again, we're trying to go through game by game here and just give you a little bit of insight as to looking at the board, what I see at least as the best value pick in that game. Don't run out and put all these in a parlay. Don't run out and put 5 of these in a parlay. These games are, March is as wild as it comes, but just with the data that we have, and I've watched a lot of college basketball, so I am well versed on a lot of these teams, and knowing that gets me to this point where I'm explaining these. So, and that kind of lends into my next point here, Alabama State. This will be my 4th time watching them if I choose to watch this game. Alabama State is in line for this is a clear backdoor cover for total points. Do I think Alabama State has any business being this far into the tournament. They could have lost the other night, and we wouldn't even be talking about this right now. That's the thing that I realize is like they're nothing about them screams legitimacy. Do they have some nice players? Yeah. Is Auburn going to steamroll them? Probably. I just think we're going to run into the same situation as we are in this game, right? I'm just taking the guessing work out of it and not needing this team to do as much work. I don't think Auburn comes out and puts on a full court press on this team. I could see Auburn being up by 35 points, and Alabama State plays fast. They're going to get a lot of shots up. They might not be good shots, but towards the end of the game when it's lax, 87 to 60 gets the job done, and you blow them out completely. But and I don't know that Auburn takes the game that high, but I also don't know if they win by 15, and just a total domination and the score looks different. But I actually really like this bet. I think that Alabama State, after seeing a St. Francis team play them who really, really, really bogs the ball down typically and really plays mucky basketball, this team being able to score 70 points against them, I'm not saying that St. Francis and Auburn are the same, but, for sake of argument, Alabama State is surely able to score some points. And it'll be me sitting here praying for them to knock down some 3-pointers in the last 3 minutes of the game for this total to even hit. But I think it's definitely doable. So I like that one. And then transitioning through the middle part of the day, we get to a game that I found interesting initially. And the more I've done research on it, I've never picked this team to lose. But now I think that they cover the spread, and that's going to be Clemson. McNeese is a nice story. This game will probably be a pretty defensive game, so 7.5 points might sound like a lot when you think there's two defenses, but Josh and I alluded to this on the original video that we think Clemson's just going to beat them up on the inside. And to me, you could see foul trouble. You could see free throws. Clemson likes to get out in transition, turn you over, play defense. And I just think I could see Clemson winning this game by 12 to 15 points more than I can see them winning by 4 or 5. So I just think with that number, anything short of like 9, I'm okay with taking with Clemson. At first, I thought McNeese could really upset them, but the more I looked into it, Clemson just does a lot of things well defensively that's going to prohibit these smaller teams who just are going to have trouble defending the inside of the paint, slowing this team down from getting what they want. And if Clemson's able to get the ball off the glass and get running, it could be a blowout. So this is probably my second or third favorite pick in the entire first round. So yeah, Clemson minus 7.5. It's the play in that game. Moving on to what is probably the best game of the day, in my opinion. You got VCU and BYU. And this is going to purely be location. As Josh and I were discussing in the previous video, this game's played in Denver, Colorado, so it's played in an elevation. I continued to say above sea level. I'm an idiot. It has nothing to do with sea level. It has to do with altitude. And so VCU's played 3 games at altitude this year. That's great. That's probably 3 more than a lot of these teams in the tournament that just don't get into that area of the country. But BYU plays half their games at altitude and then some of their other games. So, it's different when you got to run with a team that wants to run. And now VCU can play defense. They can shoot 3-pointers. VCU is the better team, in my opinion. They're not ranked higher. They don't play in a better conference. But as a team, if I wanted to go win a basketball game on a neutral court, I'd probably take VCU's roster over BYU's roster. And that's just because the way they play together, they kind of seem like they're on a string a lot of times. They got a lot of dudes that can score. Shulga could just win the game by himself. I mean, the kid's dynamic, so I could see that happening. But I think down the stretch, you're going to see tired legs from VCU, and BYU is going to be able to put in some late baskets and what may be, a 1 or 2 possession game in the last 3 minutes. And I think BYU is able to get it to like 5 or 6 and win the game. You don't want to say comfortably, but I think to the point where you don't have to even worry about a last-second three-pointer busting this bet up. I think BYU gets there, and I think this number will probably be at 3 or 3.5 by tomorrow. I know a lot of people have bet it already, and the line really hasn't moved, which lets you know that the sharps are probably on VCU, and with good reason. I think that VCU is better, and if you play this game 10 times, VCU probably wins at 6 or 7, to be honest with you. And if you played it on a neutral court, I think they win it 7 or 8 times. I just think they're a better team. With BYU in this particular environment, I got to roll with them. That's a short number. And they can score a lot of points. Don't get me wrong. They've had their moments where they looked like a super legitimate team, and especially down the stretch, they were playing some good basketball. So I like them to get that one done. Next game I have here is a game. Georgia's one of the few teams I watched a lot of basketball from in the SEC. I just couldn't get into watching their games. They're not exciting. Nothing about their team really gets me going. But I know that this team can score. I don't see many teams in this tournament holding them under 75 points. Let's just call it. They play a style of basketball with St. Mary's where those games are really drudged up, and that's because St. Mary's is controlling the pace. But I think most games where you don't have familiarity with Gonzaga, all of a sudden Nembhard just has them running, and you just don't even know what's going on anymore. And Ake inside, he's going to get baskets, and I feel like the score can get away, and Georgia's going to try to keep up with them rather than dictate any pace, because I don't think Georgia really is a team that's assertive offensively. So I don't think that they're going to control this game in any way against Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga wins the game easily. I thought about taking the point spread. I think it's a 6.5. I wouldn't mind that, but I just think it's safer to say Gonzaga's going to score 80 points because I assume that they are. So just plain and simple, Gonzaga's offense is just way too legitimate for me in this game with this coach having this conference experience with these players who also have tons of tournament experience being held under 80 points. I just don't see it. We're going to go to the next game, which I think this team's probably furious right now. Losing a close game against Florida. You get a 2 seed. Maybe if you beat Florida, maybe they move you, although the committee says they weren't going to. And within reason, I don't think Tennessee's better than Florida. But they're right there. Tennessee, to me, is the best number 2 seed in this tournament. And I think they come out right out of the gate and they just step on Wofford. I think Wofford's got nothing for them. The line is 19 in this game, and I thought about taking that, but I'm just so weary of these big numbers you see on here. Nothing I've given you so far, even when these lopsided games come up, I'm looking more at like team totals, Alabama State, Montana, even I'm taking the plus side of that. I just don't like to lay a big number in these early games because, yes, historically, that's what happens. The number 2 seed just stomps on the 15, but we've seen it happen so many other ways. And I think that Tennessee comes out and they just basically suffocate Wofford. Like their defense is so good that I don't need them to score 40 points in the first half. They can score 35 and hold Wofford 20 and 22 and still cover this number. I need them to win the first half by 12. That sounds like a lot of points in a tournament game. I just don't see Wofford being able to score. I could see this being at like the 12-minute mark and Wofford's got like 6 points and Tennessee's up like 17-6 and they're already covering this number. It's probably the biggest mismatch almost on paper in the first round to me is that Tennessee, and they have extra juice having lost that game. It's the same as the Wisconsin drive that I think. I just think Montana is so much better of a team. That's a 3 versus 14 matchup, and I think Montana would stomp Wofford. And they're just talking about 1 seed difference there. So when it comes to these games, like this is one of the few teams I think comes out and just lays their dominance right off the bat as a high seed. So Tennessee first half minus 11.5. That's enough of talking about that game and as to why. This game is going to be a huge, huge, huge betting point. I think as the night rolls on and people have lost a lot of money or won a lot of money, I think this game is going to have a tremendous amount of action. You have two of the probably 5 or 6 biggest coaches of the last 30 years in college basketball as far as winning and brand. And you got Bill Self in Kansas, the 7th seed, laying 5 points against Arkansas and Calipari. Calipari is a hell of a coach, man, and Arkansas has played a way tougher schedule better than Kansas has played their tough schedule. Kansas got some early wins in the beginning of the year. Hunter Dickinson is 100 years old. He's been playing there forever. Abrams is good. Mayo is good. Like on paper, they have a better roster, and they probably should win this game. And this may just be, they could lose by 15 points, Arkansas here, and I wouldn't be completely surprised by that. I just think that the SEC coupled with the better coach in this game, and you're giving me more than 2 classic buckets, or at least 2 buckets here, and we can push. I just think it's too many points. I think Kansas has imploded as a tournament team over and over and over again, and it's been later in the first round. Clearly, they're not a 7 seed commonly. They're more of a 1, 2, and 3. If you follow college basketball at all, you know that. But this Kansas team, this version of this team, is a watered down, let down, just waiting to happen. And I think Arkansas actually comes out and beats them. I've taken Arkansas in most of my brackets, and given me 5 points, I'm happy with taking 5 points. And again, I could see Kansas easily winning. If they have a game where everyone's clicking, they're a better team on paper. But I think if it's a tight game and it's coming down to X's and O's and coaching and substitutions and just getting your guys ready to play, I believe a lot more in John Calipari than I do Bill Self at all. I mean, Bill Self had to write a letter apologizing for, his team's play and saying, don't blame the players, blame me, when these kids have got their hands out for NIL money left and right. These kids are millionaires now, and you're still trying to take up for them. And he needed that just to be able to get a road win in this conference. I mean, they were getting blown out by Utah and BYU, and they were in an embarrassing point here where these numbers could be flip-flopped, and it could be Arkansas -5 as the 7 seed, and that would be fine with me too. So give me Arkansas in that game. Next game here. I've watched this team a few times now. I'm trying not to have recency bias on it, but I'm going to at the moment. And it's just simply like, let me just pull up this note here. Okay. It's I don't think they're going to win the game, but I think me probably a month ago would have said that this should be an under. The whole game should be an under. I had this misconception of Texas A&M that Texas A&M only played defense. And what I realized, and this was through betting and realizing and chasing this team and following statistics and looking at everything that they were doing in live data versus previous stuff and just kind of trying to make my best guess. And I kept being wrong about this team. And they continued to be able to show me, just like Texas Tech, that they can score. They can score. They're the second best rebounding team in the country, at least offensively. So they're going to get to the glass and put things back. But Yale does the same thing. Yale hits the glass. They got this tank kid, Mallory, I want to say is his name. I talked about him in our other video. The dude is just a unit down there, and I think that he put some pressure on them. And Yale's got some kids that can fill the bucket up. And they have their conference player of the year, point guard. I can't remember his name, so it's the B or C, his last name. He's like a 6'3", just kind of smooth crossover. He's got a little flavor to his game. He can shoot the jumper. He can get to the paint and score with both hands. Great at the foul line. And then they have this left-handed kid who's like 6'4", Poldakis, something like that. And I said this in our other video too. I could see this kid getting into the NBA. He reminds me of Luke Kennard. If you know who Luke Kennard is from Duke, great spot-up shooter, but can move without the ball and is deceptively able to get open as a left-handed shooter, rolling off of screens to the right and still being comfortable shooting back across. The kid can fill it up. So Texas A&M score, can they win 78-67? Sure. Win by 11. I could completely see a game like that. I think Yale pushes them to a more offensive game. Yale wants to get out and move a little bit. They're not the fastest team by any means, but they will take the ball off the glass and try to get back running at Texas A&M so that they're not able to set their half-court defense and get this rebounding thing under control. So I really this is again one of my top 5 bets. I just like Yale to be able to fill it up tomorrow. So we've got this game. I've been wavering back and forth on this game probably more than any other game in this entire first round, because I think that the team that I'm about to show you, I think they're better than the team they're playing. But for some reason, I just have a feeling they're not going to win the game. But okay. Drake is the #1 defensive efficiency team in college basketball. They remind me so much of Houston, minus the flat out firepower whenever they want on offense. Now they can score the ball, but it's not their style of game. And Missouri only wants to run, get up quick shots, hit the offensive glass, shoot the ball from 3. They're a mediocre free throw shooting team. When they're at home, much like Vanderbilt is what they remind me of. Ironically, the colors are the same. They play in the same conference, but at home, totally different animal. If this game was being played Missouri at home against Drake, I think Missouri wins by 10, 12 points. In this game, I think Missouri's favored by 6.5. I think that's too many for the game. I think Drake has a really good chance of winning this game. In fact, I probably think that they do win the game. I think that they're a better team in a one-off scenario. A season-long team, I'd rather have Missouri's roster. They just have a bunch of dudes who can fill it up offensively, and I think that's where the game has gone in college basketball with the three-point shooting. I know they have a longer clock than the NBA, but these kids really like to get after it and get you in foul trouble. And Missouri is just good at, they roll. It's like an SEC thing. Alabama kind of seems like they started that a few years ago, where they really just made it like, we don't care what you do on defense. We're just going to play our offensive style, and it means we're going to push the pace. And I think Missouri is going to have trouble because they're not an alpha dog like an Alabama, like a Florida, where they can dictate the pace of a game so much so. I think that Drake is going to be able to grind them down, and I don't think that Missouri knows how to play that style of game because they don't have anyone in the SEC like that outside of Tennessee. But Tennessee, again's got more firepower than Drake. So just picture a team that's going to methodically hold the ball on offense until they get a great shot, and you're going to have lots of trouble, even if they don't score, getting back and getting at them and getting points. I thought about taking Missouri's team total under. However, I just know how explosive they are, and if I'm wrong about Drake's defense and they just don't have it that day and Missouri just proves to be too much, they're going to fly over their total. I think it's like 73. So I like Drake early to show that they're a good team, that they deserve to be where they're at. They should have been a ranked team, in my opinion. They don't have great out-of-conference stuff going on, and I understand that, but that doesn't take away from what you see with the eye test, and this team is just a really good basketball team. So I like Drake in the first half here, plus 3.5. Let's move on to some nightcap stuff. And we have this game I've also gone back and forth because Utah State is traditionally a score in the paint, rebound the ball. They've been that for the last few years, and they've been to the tournament a few times. And it may be my nostalgia talking, but I know them to be kind of more of a physical basketball team. And I thought UCLA was that until the last few months when I realized that they're not physical. They're just really smart on defense. They just play very connected. Mick Cronin, once he told them that they were soft, that changed his team. And this kid Mara that they have playing center, that's like 7 foot or 7'1" from Spain. He doesn't score a lot of points. He's not going to get a lot of rebounds. But in this game, I think what I've watched of him in the last 4 to 6 weeks, I think he could truly affect this game. There's no size for Utah on their starting lineup at all. Their center's like 6'8". So I think this guy's going to be able to change shots in the paint. I think he may be able to find himself some easy buckets on the inside. And I think it's going to loosen up that UCLA offense, because we've seen games where UCLA can score 80 or 90 points, and we've seen games where they want to play 65 points. I'm hoping they're somewhere in the middle, like they score in the 70s, because then I think their defense can really allow them to cover this number. But as it sits right now, I just think this should be more of like a 7 or 8 point game. If UCLA and Utah State are both on, that's the difference in the teams, in my opinion. And I think that just the size inside for UCLA is going to eventually make a difference as the game goes on. And Utah State's going to find it harder and harder to score. And UCLA is going to end up getting out in transition and get some baskets. So, like UCLA -5.5 there. Move on to the darling of the brackets, the chalkiest team in all of the land. If you pick this team, you are a casual and you don't know anything about basketball, man. You don't know ball. I hate these freaking people on the internet. St. John's, okay? Why do I have St. John's team total under in a game that they should absolutely dominate? Because I just think that they don't need – I don't think they're going to score 85 points, because I don't think they need to. It's just too many points for me. I don't – it's not that they can't, okay? I just don't I don't see them being pushed by Omaha enough to have to score that many points. I could see them winning like 75 to 58. You know what I mean? I don't see them needing to score 85 points because I don't think Omaha is going to push their defense like that. I think that St. John's wants to prove that they belong with the big boys. And I think they're the second best 2 seed. It's close with them in Michigan State, but I think I like St. John's roster better and the way they play together. I trust them a little bit more. And I think in this game is not one of those games where they need to show their hand, because they have something on deck that could prove to be tough. And I don't know that they need to exhaust themselves in this game. And it's not that they can't. Clearly, if they find that their defense just doesn't have it that night, they can ramp up with anybody and score. I just think Omaha, the lights are going to be bright. St. John's is all anyone's talking about. You're putting them in your Final Four automatically, and nobody can beat this team, and Jimmy Fallon's got a song with them, and blah, 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 blah. I think all the hype is very warranted. It's a great team. Pitino's a great coach. For the first round game, I think this is far too many points. You probably won't see their total above like 76 in any other game that they play in this tournament, because they don't need to. That's not the brand of basketball they want to play. And I don't think they're about to be pushed to this number by anybody. If they were playing Arizona, even then I think you'd see this number below. A team that's going to try to score 100 points on you, I still don't think you're going to see this number this high. That just says that the better team is going to dictate the pace most of the time. So St. John's under 83.5 points. I love that one. We got our final 2 picks here, and we'll get out of here. This video is about 30 minutes long. I'm trying to get through it for you guys with my thoughts. I'll let you know where I'm at. Again, we will put all our picks on Twitter. Thanks for following along with us. So what I'm going to do here real quick as I talk through this game is I'm just going to try to put some more information in on the bottom so that you guys can kind of just scroll along with it. Michigan and San Diego. I've gone back and forth about this game too many times to even think about anymore. I do think San Diego can win the game. In fact, they're a darling. They're kind of like the St. John's right now, right? Like everybody's writing them off as a team that you should be picking. Like you can't take Michigan. You're not allowed to take Michigan. And I get why. It's more like people are following in line with the stuff that they hear on the internet and not so much doing their own research, because I doubt most of these people know anything about UC San Diego other than everyone on Twitter is saying you need to pick them. I know for a fact that UC San Diego is capable of putting up 80 points on Michigan, because I think Michigan's defense is not legitimate. And I think that's the point of the game where like Michigan would normally want to play. Now, they did show in that Big Ten championship game that they really could choke down and slow down the Wisconsin team. But I think that Wisconsin kind of just didn't. I don't know if they were out of gas or what. But I just think that game was not the real Wisconsin team. And therefore, you got a Michigan team who got to almost get like a free, we don't need to try as hard type of game. Meaning we can play a close game here and just kind of try to figure it out at the end. We're already in the dance. This probably isn't affecting us. And according to this, to everybody online, it didn't affect anything. They were going to be a 5 seed anyway, whether they won that game or not. So to them, I really think that they just ended up kind of coasting in that game. And what's going to happen is if they try to come out and take this team any bit lightly, they're going to get beat by UC San Diego. Full transparency, I have UC San Diego in most of my brackets. I don't want to say anything weird about it, but I was on this. I was on this before it was cool. I was on the phone with Josh on the second we were literally watching the reveal at the same time. I pick up my phone and he answers and says hello. And I said, I have an upset. And he says upset at the same time. And it's when they're announcing this game. We had multiple talks about UC San Diego already and where they would be rated and what we thought about them as far as who they could beat. And Michigan is just one of those teams. Now, all of this to say, Michigan's a better team. They have better players. And this number is unbelievably short for a 12-5 matchup. I go back and look at the 12-5 matchups over the last decade and try to find me a lot of -2.5s. There just aren't many. And the reason being is the betting public is all over this team, but the books have to make the adjustment. They understand that this is also very possible for this to be the case. And I think that you could get some value out of Michigan by getting them at 2.5. That's just really what this bet all boils down to at the end of the day, is that I think that number is probably too low for what will happen most of the time these two teams play. Most of the time, I think Michigan will win by 5, 6, 7 points. UC San Diego can certainly get them. They can get them by double digits too. This team, when they're shooting well, they have tons of dudes that can score. And Michigan is a team that we've seen go really cold in many games this year, where they didn't look legitimate at all. And this, I don't think that they're going to do this, because I do think that they realize that the media is up against them right now. and doesn't believe that they should win this game, or at least they hear the chatter in their locker rooms about this game. So at the end of the day, um, it's come out on the court and prove it. And that's where Michigan's at in this game. And if they're able to do that, um, I think they win this game. Like I said, 5, 6, 7 points. So 2.5 is just such a short number to me that I can't ignore taking it. Although stupidly, I'm taking UC San Diego in my bracket. So I'm giving out a pick here saying contrary to exactly what it is that I'm actually doing, trying to win a game, which is just picking on the money line essentially when you're doing a bracket, right? Is you're just picking the winner of the game, regardless of, financial outcome, which makes no difference. So I think it's made me think about changing some of these picks, but I feel comfortable if I'm going to give out a pick on here, it's going to be Michigan. I'm not going to be following the trend and saying, you see San Diego money line or whatever the case is. Although I do think so, this would be one of my bottom bets if I was going to make a bet. Now it's a very short bet, clearly at 2.5. So you're getting a ton of value on Michigan here. So do with that what you will. Sorry for my long-winded answer while I'm typing, but realistically, this game could even be a pick 'em, and I wouldn't really be surprised at all. And yeah, so I'm going to go to our last pick. We'll get you out of here. UNC Wilmington taking on Texas Tech. Texas Tech, much like Tennessee, paired them already. These teams have now become, I can score as many points as I want, or I can stop you on defense. I just think this is one of those games where Texas Tech is going to get up to a comfortable lead, 15, 18 points, and I think that it's just going to become something where their defense is what gets them through. There's no need to push this team out there at all. There's just no need. They don't need to get out on the court and run around all crazy. They need to get through this game. UNC Wilmington, I think, is absolutely not a good team. To ask them to score 64 points and think what Texas Tech is going to just come out and score 85. It's like the St. John's thing. They don't need to do that. This is not a game where you need to flex your offensive capabilities against a team that can also score with you. And you need to just be like, well, this is the game we got to play. This is Texas Tech got in this game the other day with Arizona. And they let Arizona get out to an early lead, and they had to become this offensive team, and but they could never get all the way back. Where this game, they're going to dictate this pace, and they can come out and just be like, put the brakes on this game. They can score 75 and hold UNC Wilmington to 55 if they want to. And I think that's more indicative of what's going to happen. So this is one of my favorite bets as well. It's the last game of the night at 10-10. So if you find yourself just scraping together something to try to throw some action on, this is like a Hawaii bet. I think Texas Tech covers the spread, but I think that this is a better bet to take Wilmington to go under. So we've got a quick scroll here going along on the bottom that just shows all the picks in case you don't know what I picked 35 minutes ago. It just shows you everything that I picked. Makes it easier to go back and watch this. You can just fast forward to the end of the video if you want to and just look at the picks on the bottom. It makes it easy to do. Hopefully I talked enough about each game that it left it up on the screen for you guys to go back through and look at these picks if you want to. Again, we're going to put on Twitter our final picks. There could be some over-unders, stuff like that, but I didn't want to get into too many over-unders on this simply because that's something I'm going to look at even more tonight before I go to sleep. And then get up in the morning and cram a little bit more before I actually throw some stuff up on the board. It's 11 p.m. Eastern now. I want to get this video out to you guys so it's something you can watch first thing tomorrow or tonight if you're up and you're a degenerate. But tomorrow is the greatest day of the year. It is the kickoff to the greatest sporting event that exists. I love the World Cup. Don't get me wrong, soccer is my favorite sport. But when it comes to just something that's just got such purity to it, just such enjoyment. And I mean, there's a reason why these next 2 days are the least productive office days in the United States, even more so than the day after the Super Bowl. I mean, people just do not care. Every dude in your office would rather be watching this than working. Every one of them. And they're going to have it on their screen, and they're going to be hiding it from your boss. They're going to call out sick. The remarkable amount of people who won't be on the road tomorrow from like 12 to 5 is going to be unreal. So, wake up if you can, crack a beer open, sit on your couch, sit back, Creighton and Louisville, kick it off, and just enjoy, man, this 2025 tournament. I am so excited for it. I think it's going to be a tremendous, tremendous tournament. Um, Real quick, I think Houston wins the championship. If you're just asking me right now, I'm going to give one more dive into these brackets and just take one more look. And obviously, as teams get eliminated, obviously your brain changes your thoughts. But right now, if I had to go to war with one team, I just like the way Houston's built the most. Florida's really close. That's a super chalky pick. Everyone is on Florida. Yeah, that's just where we're at. And hopefully these first round games tomorrow make you some money. I'm going to try to make another video for Friday's picks tomorrow, just based on how these are going too, and just get some more information on those games, because this is a lot of research that goes into making 16 picks here, plus whatever I'm actually going to pick, plus whatever it is I'm going to build. I mean, it's a lot. So hopefully this gives somebody some sort of insight into something. Yeah, let's go green, guys. Let's make some money. Follow us on Spreads and Props on Twitter, and let's have a fun, successful tournament.